Good evening, everyone. How you all doing tonight? Good. Okay, it's a nice weather outside. There's a full moon, and everything looks nice. So, do you guys ever wonder, like, whenever you look at the moon and stars, like, what might be behind those stars or galaxies? Do you guys ever wonder about this? Yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, humans have always been curious about the astronomy and all those stars, galaxies. So this is why they started creating all these technologies, which in general we refer as space technologies. So tonight I, Anuj, and my teammates Birendra, Hassan, Pukar, and Kasip, we're going to talk about the space technologies in the past and the current state. So let's get started.
Thank you, Anuj. Good evening, everyone. I am going to talk about history of space technologies. Because of time constraint, I am not going to detail about the history of space technology. I want just go through the invention of telescope. The invention of telescope was invented by Galileo Galilei in 1609. Later, in early 1600, German astronomer Johannes Kepler was formally addressed the laws of planetary motion. After that, 1686, Sir Isaac Newton described the laws of motion. In 1930, one of the greatest breakthrough was made by inventing first liquid propellant rocket. That rocket was invented by three scientists: one Robert H. Goddard of US, Hermann Oberth of Germany, and Russian teacher Konstantin E. Shiloskovsky of Russian. On October 1957, Sputnik 1 was the first unmanned space satellite which was sent by Soviet Union. After that, in 1957, Soviet Union again sent the first dog in the space, like you can see in the picture. On October 1, 1958, National Aeronautics Space Administration was formally established by United States for the space exploration. In 1959, Luna 1 launched by Soviet Union to reach the moon's orbit. Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin was the first man who traveled in the space on April 12, 1961. Later on, 1962, NASA sent the Telstar, which was first active communication satellite, including TV broadcast systems. President John F. Kennedy delivered the speech on September 12, 1962, to encourage the scientists of NASA to discover or invent new technologies about the space exploration. He said, America should attempt to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. In 1963, Soviet cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova was the first woman who traveled in the space. Finally, Neil Armstrong of United States was the first person who set his foot on the lunar surface on July 20, 1969. Later on, June 7, 1971, Salyut 1 was the first manned orbiting space station which was launched by Soviet Union. There are the others space stations who launched by United States and Soviet Union. In 1995, Soviet cosmonaut Valery Polyakov spent 438 days in space abroad in Russian space station Mir. NASA invented the number of space shuttle. On April 12, 1981, Columbia Space Shuttle was the first space shuttle launched by NASA in the space. It had completed more than 28 space missions. Even unfortunately, Columbia Space Shuttle crashed on February 1, 2003 and killed all 7 crew members while it was returning back on the Earth after completing its missions. The next part will be continued by Pukar.
Good evening, everybody. I'll be covering the topic technology used by astronauts during space mission. And first of all, I'll go with space suits. Like it is a protective cloth to work in the space environment, and it consists of 11 layers of material, which includes orthofabric, aluminum, mylar, etc. And the weight of the space suits depends upon the different mission. Like Apollo suit was 180 pounds, whereas shuttle suit was 310 pounds. And the water and oxygen are in the backpack of the astronaut suit, and it lasts for 7.5 hours to complete its mission. And for the emergency purpose, they have 30-minute backup. Let's go to how they communicate in the space. Mostly, their signal sends through satellite through which they communicate. And in case of a space shuttle, the orbiter has 2 systems of communicating with the ground, like S-band and Ku-band. And astronauts during spacewalk communicate with the orbiter through mechanism installed in the spacesuit. They are also trying laser communication because it helps to communicate across the interplanetary distances, measure the movement of planets, and test fundamental principles of physics. There was some success in exchange of laser signals between Earth and space. Like in 1992, the laser pulses were successfully transmitted to Galileo probe, but it was single transmission, as Galileo probe does not have transmitter in it. They are also trying like broadband in space. It is similar to moving from dial-up internet connection to broadband, and it will enable the data transmission rate that is 10 to 1,000 times higher than the traditional radio waves. And future mission like of NASA was sending Mars telecommunication orbiter spacecraft in 2010, but due to budgetary problem, it was postponed. If it was sent, then laser transmission will be like 1 to 30 million bits per second. At present, the laser transmission between Earth and Mars is only about 120,000 bits per second. Like they track themselves in the space, like in the Earth using GPS, and in like they have also function like multifunctional electronic display system in space shuttle. It is like you can see in the figure. It is like a cockpit for the astronauts, and they can measure attitude, altitude, and speed. And let's move to spacewalk. You can see the figure that astronaut Ed White was the first American to perform the spacewalk, and it is activity performed outside the spacecraft in the space. And why we need a spacewalk? Like to install the lab on the International Space Station, for maintenance, to the new research. And for the spacewalk, the astronauts need external force, and it will be done like by unit called handheld maneuvering unit or manned maneuvering unit. And this system uses compressed nitrogen so that it pushes astronauts forward. And like the major benefit is that astronauts can move in space without being attached with the spacecraft.